Welcome to SRG Insights, where we answer your questions about sales, sales management, and sales training. And today's question is,
what are some ways a salesperson can speed along the procurement process when dealing with large Fortune 1000 companies?
Well, thank you for that question. And it's a really interesting one because it highlights a number of different things that are involved in a negotiation and in specifically working with procurement, which is an area that we've studied and we're very interested in from a sales and sales management perspective. I'm going to outline a few, I think, ideas that you can consider when working with procurement and perhaps that might help to speed along that process. And the first is really to understand the rules that procurement is playing under. So thinking of procurement as a partner or at least as another stakeholder in the opportunity as opposed to an adversary or somebody that we're going up against. Let's see if we can't meet with them, figure out what their timelines are, what their steps are. Oftentimes large organizations publish their procurement policies. So they should establish and map out exactly how they engage with partners and the steps that you need to do to become an approved vendor or to get a project approved. So I think the first step is to really understand what those steps are and make sure we have a good appreciation for what we need to do to become approved as a vendor and to get that project moving forward. The second step really goes to the business need, and this speaks to how bad do they need this problem to be solved? How big is it? How significant? What's the impact on the organization? And when do they need the problem solved? So what happens, in other words, if the project is delayed or if this languishes stuck in procurement somewhere? Because if we realize that there is urgency and it is a compelling need, that can really help us when we're speaking to procurement say, well, our stakeholders said they really want to implement this by the beginning of the quarter, so we really need to keep this moving forward, and maybe you can even get some support from your business sponsors to keep that moving. If there isn't a compelling need or a timeline, I think that should be a red flag for us that maybe this isn't going to move forward as quickly as we thought, or maybe they're just kicking the tires. The third area really speaks to the authority, the involvement and stakeholders. In other words, who needs to be involved in making this decision and how are we aligned with them? Because I think oftentimes opportunities go into procurement, they get stuck, we're not sure what's happening, and we find out that there's a whole steering committee or stakeholder group that we haven't spoken with. And if we have those mystery decision makers or people that we have not yet had an opportunity to present to, we haven't had a chance to sell and propose and present the value of our solution. So we really need to map the organization, understand who's involved, and specifically in the decision-making process, understand who's going to weigh in and who gets to vote. If we have coaches involved, that can be very important, very helpful, because they can help us with answering some of those questions and also can help maybe keep things moving forward along the way. And the final component really speaks to outlining the actions and the dates that are necessary. If we understand that procurement process and we understand the steps that are necessary, we should have our own work plan and activities and actions that we know we need to take and we know that the client needs to take to get that agreement finalized. And oftentimes I think that's fuzzy or it's left open for interpretation, and then we get frustrated because things aren't moving quickly enough. In a lot of organizations, they specify exactly what needs to happen and what the commitments are from both parties to keep that opportunity moving forward. I think by that way you can avoid surprises and you can also help take control of that opportunity and move it forward, sometimes even influencing those dates and influencing the decision making to get it done by a certain time. The final piece I'll leave you with on this, and again, this is speaking to how do we keep that opportunity from dying in procurement or getting stuck along the way, is we just need to be tenacious in our follow-up. We need to be the first ones responding. We need to be answering those questions. We need to be turning around those agreements. We need to be the first in line at every opportunity. And then we're in a better position to go back and say, hey, where are we with this? What else can we do? Keep this moving forward. The last thing we want is for the client to be waiting on us to respond and then somebody else gets in there and either closes the deal or distracts them from looking at our opportunity or our proposal. So I think by outlining some of those steps and specifically looking at the process from proposal through closing, what needs to happen, what's the timeline, what are the key steps, what can we do, and maybe more importantly, what are we expecting the customer to do? Once we have those agreements, we're in a better position to take control of that deal and get it closed on time. Thank you.